Hold still! You lied to me, you lied to me! In the face, in my face.
Put it in the peanut butter.
In the face, in my face, in the face, in my face. In the face, in my face.
I thought you said this guy was a Christian. What is this?
Liberate tutte me.
Hey, I'm Peter Franson from ChristianGeekCentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions, and I've got tabletop gaming on my brain right now. We just had GenCon Indiana, which I was not able to go to, but it's one of the biggest tabletop gaming conventions, if not the biggest in the world, and they showcased some new games going on there. I've been watching a lot of videos and coverage of that event, and I've also just been, since there are conventions for gaming throughout the summer that kind of lead up to Gen Con, there's been various bits of tabletop gaming news that have come out over the last few months that have gotten me excited. So all that added up together has got me just thinking about rolling dice and flipping cards and doing all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm going to share with you the things that have kind of bubbled up to the top for me in particular. I'm a big co-op gamer. I'm not a competitive gamer at all, so I like to play games where either there's a game master type of player or everybody's working together. So those are the kinds of things that bubble up to the top. If you're interested in those kinds of games, then stick with me, and maybe you'll hear about something you haven't heard about yet. The first one is XCOM, the board game. This is from Fantasy Flight Games, and it's a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players that uses an app that is available for it's going to be available, the game's not available yet, but the app is going to be up on PC, on tablet, on smartphone, all this kind of stuff. They're trying to make it as widely available as possible in as many different ways as possible, and it basically helps to run the game. There are 4 different roles in the game, and they all reportedly play very differently. You are working together to save the world from alien invasion, and the game plays out on a global scale. So as you're looking at the board and all the pieces, it represents kind of the map of the world. And you've got 4 different roles. You've got the research scientist who's developing tech that can improve what the other players can do, and how it can add to what they can do, I think, and also improve their ability to do what they're already doing. There's the squad leader who's kind of like controlling the ground forces. He finds the missions and completes the missions, and ultimately there's one final mission that I guess you kind of have to find. I'm not sure how that works over the course of the game, and complete that mission to win the game. Then you've got the commander who is mastering the budget. So he's going to be, deciding who gets what resources to complete what they need to do. So he's kind of like maybe similar in some ways. I couldn't quite tell from the video I watched to the scientist, but is going to be just kind of controlling the budget that's portioned out. And I think bad things maybe happen if you go over budget. I'm not sure. And then lastly, the central officer. This is the role that sounds the least interesting to me. I'd like to learn more about it. But this is the person that is basically running the app and is the quote-unquote mouthpiece for the app, as one of the guys running the demo for the game in the video I saw described it. They're placing items on the board and stuff. Frankly, it sounds boring. It sounds like they are not terribly involved, at least not involved near to the level as the other players are, in helping to win the game. It sounds like a lot of what they're doing is just kind of like being hands for the app. So, maybe somebody would be interested in that. Maybe somebody who's just interested in teaching games or something. I don't know. The jury's definitely still out on that. I've just seen one demo video for this game, so I'm hoping that in the coming months, as we get closer to the release for this game, we'll get to hear more about the central officer and the kinds of things that they get to do during the game. So again, XCOM, the board game, defending Earth from alien invasion, Fantasy Flight Games. It's expected in the 4th quarter of 2014, so sometime between now and Christmas, we ought to be seeing that one. Now this is on my radar, but not really because of Gen Con, and that's a co-op variant for Descent. Descent Journeys in the Dark is a dungeon crawling. I kind of have to put that in quotes. That's what Fantasy Flight would tell you. I would say no, this is a kind of a skirmish game in the 2nd edition. The 1st edition, I really loved it, although eventually the rules got clunky and bogged down and I just got tired of it. you also had really lengthy games as well. But they streamlined all that in the second edition. But what they took out entirely was the sense of exploration, because every time you sit down to play a game of Descent second edition, the map is laid out, you see everything. And not only that, but it's not like this titanic struggle between the bad guys trying to, hack and slash their way through minions and take down a big boss. No, it doesn't really use that formula at all. Instead, what you have is a lot in those scenarios for Descent Second Edition. The hero's trying to pick up an object and take it to this side of the board, while the Overlord is trying to pick up this object and take it to this side of the board. And if you get in each other's way, well, then you can fight, But it seems it just doesn't have the same feel to me. Well, Fantasy Flight has released a single product that is a solo co-op type of rule set. But it's not quite what I'm looking for. It doesn't quite do what I want it to do. However, a variant that I discovered online, which includes nice cards that you can print out to affect the changes that need to happen in the game to play it this way, allow you to play the game completely cooperatively, no overlord. That role is completely automated, and not only that, but it allows for this sense of exploration, moving from one room into another. The room is explored and discovered, and you're finding loot and you're upgrading and stuff. All those kinds of like dungeon crawling elements that I really felt were missing from Descent Second Edition, this is bringing them back in. I haven't tried it out yet. I've printed out the cards and I'm very intrigued. It looks like it could be a great solution for me, so I'm really looking forward to sitting down and giving that a try. For more information about that, go to BoardGameGeek.com, do a search for Descent, and look down in the variants section. If I have time to find that specific link again and dig it out, then I'll put a link here for you, maybe below or something, or in the show notes. Okay, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I've been curious about this one for years because I've heard conflicting rumors about, it's going to allow you to, it's going to be compatible with all previous versions of D&D. It's going to be a totally different rule set. It's going to be streamlined, it's going to be crunchy, all kinds of different thoughts. I played a demo of this at a game convention a year ago, but it wasn't enough to get a sense of how this game was going to play and how it was going to be different from a rules standpoint compared to previous editions of Dungeons and Dragons. Well, I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing. There is a free PDF version of the basic rules available online. I'm gonna give you guys that link. Yeah, I'll get it to you somehow. Either look in the show notes or look below if you're watching the video. It's completely streamlined. I love what they're doing here. Oh, and by the way, that PDF you can download is 2 different files. It's a like the player's handbook type thing and the game master thing. These are complete rules. It's not like these really just the bare bones so that you can kind of get a taste of the game and then you got to go buy it. No, you could play and run a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons using these rules that they're providing for you online. Now, what I think is going to happen, because it's like a 115-page rulebook just for the player's handbooky type thing, you're going to print that out. You're going to end up spending at least about a third of the amount of money, maybe up to a half of the amount of money that you would spend to buy the rulebook. I think what most people are going to do is read these rules and get a good sense of the system, get excited about it, and then go buy the rulebook so you can have the awesome art and stuff like that, and all the kind of nice fluff and flavor that comes with a rulebook like that. But even so, if you want to and you've got a tablet you can just run it off of without printing it out or anything, this is a great way to get into 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Like I said, it's streamlined for emphasis on exploration, for storytelling, for faster combat. I've just skimmed the rules so far, just a few sections of it, just a few key sections like combat and character creation and stuff. But I love what I'm seeing. Miniatures are optional. In fact, they are a variant rule. If you look in the basic rules PDF, there's like a gray box where it says, where it gives the rules for using miniatures in the game. So that is not the default, unlike the terrible decision, in my opinion, made for 4th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, where it was assumed that if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, you are playing miniatures, and they tried to sell us a bunch of tiles and minis and stuff like that to go along with it. Oh man, what a mess! I didn't even touch 4th edition. I was like, I want nothing to do with that, because when I sit down and play a paper and pencil RPG, I like for it to be social, for it to be fun, for it to be relaxed and casual, and not be taking this so serious, and it be this really strategic, technical exercise. And I'm not interested in number crunching. I'm not interested in any of that crap. I want to explore explore a world. I want to have crazy imaginative adventures. That's the kind of role-playing experience I want to have, and it looks like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is going to be delivering on that. Let's see here. Oh, this is cool too. When you're doing your character creation and you're creating the background for the character, what you select as elements of your background actually affects your stats. And so character creation, character background and stuff, it's more than just, creating these kind of stat blocks and stuff like that and number crunching. You're creating this character, creating their story, and as a result of the story that you create for them, that affects their stats, their capabilities in the game. And it's not hugely weighted in that direction, but it's, when you create a character, you're really not going to have an option to not have some kind of little backstory for them, even if it's just a basic outline. When you sit down to play a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons character, they're going to have at least a somewhat interesting background. And so there really seems to be, as I said, an emphasis this time around on exploration, on character, on just kind of immersion in the world, as opposed to, okay, let's crunch the numbers and just work the system and be all tactical and too smart for our own good. And I'm not that smart enough of a player. I've sat down with some players that are brilliant in that way. More power to them. I'm jealous. I wish I was as smart as them. Unfortunately, I'm dumb as a brick, and so I'm just interested in the artsy fartsy creative side of role playing games. So for if you're a number crunching nerd, you want to stick with 3.5 or 4th edition probably. But if what I just described sounds interesting to you, definitely go check out those free PDF downloads of the 5th edition rules for Dungeons and Dragons. The Player's Handbook is out now. If you want the full art and all that kind of stuff, Player's Handbook is out now. The Monster Manual is coming out September 30th, and the Dungeon Master's Guide is coming out November 18th. Now, if you're listening to this and watching this and you're like, oh, Paeter, I can't believe you're talking about Dungeons and Dragons. That's kind of like an evil thing, isn't it? Well, I would love to go into that in more detail. I'm not going to do it with this video, but for now, I would recommend that you read 1 Corinthians 8 and Romans 14, just to kind of stimulate some thought and just kind of see what you think about that. And then if you want to give me some comments below after reading that about what those might say about a person's concerns about a game like Dungeons and Dragons, I'd love to hear from you. And if you're interested in getting a video that actually talks about how we as Christians can or can't or should or shouldn't engage with certain types of games with dark supernatural themes and stuff like that, let me know, and I'll kind of bump that up in the priority of the kind of the videos that I would like to create. So anyway, moving on for now though, speaking of role-playing games and streamlined rules, something that I got into recently is a game called Hero Kids, available as a PDF download for like $6 or $7 on Drive-Thru RPG. I've got a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, no, I've got a how old are they now? Let's see, a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old who are about to be 4 and 7 very soon. I've been looking for years for ways to get them involved in paper and pencil RPGs. I think Hero Kids is the one for me. Very simple rules. There's no math. You're just taking a group of dice. Like, say you have a magic skill. You have 3 6-sided dice in your magic trait. You roll 3 6-sided dice. You just look at the top number. Then the person you're attacking, they look at their number of defense dice. They roll those. They pick the highest number. Whoever has the highest number wins. So it's a very simple combat system, and that's how skill rolls are resolved. It's a lot of fun. Not only that, but they do little fun things. The game is designed for kids from 4 to 10 years old, and one of the fun little touches that just shows that they have kids truly in mind is you keep track of your health with these little boxes on your character, and the rules suggest that you put little pieces of candy on those boxes. So every time you take damage, whether you're the game master running the bad guys or the kids running the heroes, then you take one of those candies and you eat it. So it takes a little bit of the sting off of getting hit or maybe even getting killed. And if you get killed or knocked out, as they say in this game, it's really easy to be completely revived. You drink a health potion or you get healed by a buddy and you get all of your health points back. It's not partial healing in this game. When you get healed, you get it all back and everything's fine. So I've had 2 sessions with my boys so far. It's been a lot of fun for both them and for me, surprisingly. Yeah, really, really great stuff. So anyway, yeah, Hero Kids at Drive-Thru RPG. Star Wars Imperial Assault. This is a tabletop board game from Fantasy Flight Games. This is basically Descent or Doom, the board game, with the Star Wars intellectual property stamped on top of it, as far as I can tell. I haven't played it. I've watched some videos. I've read the description of kind of like what the game is intended to be, and I've looked at some of the dice and stuff. I mean, it looks like really they just took the rules from Descent and they put Star Wars on top of it. Now, it does have two different modes of gameplay. It's got the campaign mode where, like Descent or Doom, you can develop your characters over time and increase their abilities. You've got different classes, like you've got the rogue smuggler. You do have Force users, they call them. They don't call them Jedis, but you do have Force users, who I'm assuming will eventually be able to use lightsabers, if not right away. So anyway, you've got these different kinds of classes that you can use and develop over the campaign. There's also a skirmish mode included where you can just sit down, have a one-shot game where it's, the four rebel players versus the Imperial players. So instead of like an overlord or a invader player, your game master in this game, who's trying to make things challenging for the good guys, is the Imperial player. This game is going to be coming out in first quarter of 2015. I mean, like all Fantasy Flight games, it looks rocking. It looks like it's got awesome components, awesome art, a very appealing IP. For me, I'm just looking at the tiles and stuff like that. It might look just dark enough to interest me. I tend to not really be interested in the Star Wars universe. It's a little too bright and happy and cheerful for me. I don't know what that says about me. Something wrong, probably. But it looks like the way they're handling the art and the aesthetics of the board game, it's going to have a dark, serious enough tone that I could potentially enjoy it. What I won't enjoy is the $100 price tag on this thing. Oh my gosh. Anyway, coming out first quarter of 2015. Lastly, Shadowrun Crossfire. This is a cooperative board game based on the cooperative deck building game based on the Shadowrun universe. Similar in some ways to Pathfinder, but much more of a deck builder, it looks like to me. Again, I haven't played any of these games. This is just my impressions from videos and demos that I've seen. But you each have different characters that start out with unique sets of cards, and you're adding to those cards, subtracting from that deck over the game. You're recycling through. It's a deck builder like Thunderstone or Dominion, and you're going on these different missions. And over the course of many missions, you develop new skills and increased abilities and stuff like that, so you can take on more and more challenging missions. And it's in the Shadowrun universe, which is like a cyberpunk universe with fantasy thrown in. So there are elves and dragons and stuff, but it's also like you're hacking into evil corporations to, liberate the things that they're keeping from everybody else or whatever, So if you're interested in that kind of blend of sci-fi and fantasy, which I am really into myself, then this one might be interesting to you. It's expected this quarter, possibly September. I'm not quite sure, but I've definitely got my eye on Shadowrun Crossfire. So there you have it. That's what's on my brain. Tell me what's on yours in the comments below. What awesome gaminess did I miss? I'm only into certain types of games. I'd love to hear kind of what you're into and what you're really excited about after the last few months of tabletop gaming announcements. Please also do like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Then I hope you'll join us at ChristianGeekCentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.
ChristianGeekCentral.com